So I've been at Ham about a year and a few months now, and someone's on the air. I think I heard about it right before I became one, and it's become my major mode of operation. So, by the way, Angela's listening online, so he'll be watching this as well. So Angela, let me know if you can't hear or see anything clearly. Someone's on the Air, or Sota is known, started in the UK in 2002, and now I think there are 178 associations around the world. Many here in the US now. It's basically portable mountaintop operations with a twist. You'd have to make 4 contacts to claim a mountain. There are activators who are people who walk up the mountain or climb up the mountain, and chasers who they make the contacts with. There's also shortwave listeners, so some people who aren't even amateurs just listen in. And I've actually seen my call sign come up, I assume it's somebody who's a shortwave listener, and a list of all kinds of things. And there was my call sign and the locator for the summit that I was on. So somebody in Sacramento was listening to me on Cobb Mountain, I think it was. So there are a few rules, and they vary from location to location. So like California has its own association and its own rule book. If you're going to become an activator especially, you want to read that. But even the chasers might want to know. And one is that the summit is considered everything, a circle basically, 25 meters from the highest point down. Well, the way to determine this is actually a computer program that fills up with water, and they locate these peaks. Some of the peaks some of your favorite peaks may not be an official Summits on the Air peak. Usually that's because it doesn't have enough prominence to make that summit, or there's a neighboring summit. These are far enough apart. By the way, anybody recognize what peak that is?
Kanata.
That's Kanata, yeah. So the lookout is right there in the middle, in the triangle. And then if you've been up there, so this lets you know you could go down into the trees some, where you could throw up an antenna if you needed to, and you'd still be in the activation zone. In fact, you could even have a huge antenna that stretches out of this zone, and that's still legal as long as you're operating inside the activation zone. It has to be a portable power source, so you can't hook it up to, and that doesn't, a car battery can't be in the car. If you want to pack up a car battery, you can do that, but it has to be a portable power source. And people who pack up solar panels, all kinds of batteries. And it has to be a non-motorized final access. In California, it doesn't specify the distance, so literally you can get out of the car and step over into the activation zone. And as long as you're portable power and you carry everything, or you get non-motorized help to carry it. And these are the famous Sota goats from Colorado. Steve, WG0AT, W goat, Rooster and Peanut. Has anyone seen their videos on YouTube?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
On Facebook too.
On Facebook too. I'll share links because after I watched a few of these, I was like, I gotta do that. I just gotta do that. He's a great editor. Now that I've done it, I don't know how he keeps his wits to manage these goats, to film it and narrate it, and still manage to make his contacts and stay safe on the mountain. So he has 4 simplex contacts to activate. And basically activating means you've got bragging rights on the mountain until somebody else activates. And so it's king of the mountain, basically. Your call sign is associated with that mountain. Now, in our area, there's a lot of peaks that have never been activated. So the distinction you'll have is your call sign will always be the first activator. And that's what I'm going for. In fact, I have that on a number of peaks, Kanaktai and Cobb and Boggs, a number in the area. This is what our area looks like point-wise. So the higher a summit is, the more points you get. It roughly associates to 1,000 feet. So those ones on the edges, those are about 1,000 feet. then it goes to the 2s. I don't know why it skips 3s, but it jumps right to 4s. And then up in Mendocino Forest, those are 4s and 6s. And then up north of us towards the border, we get some 8s. Way up at the top, you see a red triangle, upper right. Can anybody read that or guess what peak that is?
Right above McLeod.
Right above McLeod. Shasta. So Shasta's a 10. 10 is as high as it gets. I don't know if Everest has a number, but if it does, it's a 10. And some of these are drivable. So there's peaks that are 10s that you could drive up. Like Pikes Peak gets activated all the time because you can drive up it. It's a 10. As long as you hop out of the car and drag everything over in the backpack, you can activate it. Antennas, I think, even more than radios, are really a good thing. When you're mobile operations, when it's 5 or 10 watts, even though you could take up a big power supply or more power and be 100 watts, most people are usually activating with 5 or 10 watts. So on the left is an elk antenna, and this is one. Now you may notice a difference. He has probably a 2-meter 440 combination elk. Anybody want to guess what this is?
Log.
Yeah, this is a log periodic.
Oh, cool.
And you can go horizontal or vertical fairly easy. Anybody want to guess what band?
220?
220 it is.
220.
So,
Wavelength,
speaking of our county and 220 activity, I've activated with 220. Since I only have to make 4 contacts, we've got at least 4. In fact, I think I had 5 220 contacts. I don't know if I can find out the worldwide logs, but of all the millions of contacts that have been logged, in fact, I think 20 meters itself has 1.5 million contacts in the database. Only 198 were 220, and so we did 5 of those the other weekend, and we'll keep doing more on 220. Of course, that's a loop. Not real popular, but very effective and fairly light. You can break it down and pack it up. On the right-hand side, and this was my first portable antenna, is a Slim Jim J-pole made out of ladder line as the antenna. So it's a large J or C, depending on which band you use. I'll unroll it out. People can look at that if you're not familiar with it. Plugged it right into the HT with an SMA connector, threw it up in a tree, threw a rock in a tree, pulled it up, and was talking to Sacramento, 100 miles, or west of Sacramento, Paradise, 100 miles before a ham had been, I've been a ham for a month. It was amazing. So it's hard to beat the fun I had for $60, a $30 antenna, which I could have probably built for 5 or 10 or less, and a $30 HT. On the bottom right is an end-fed dipole. In fact, I have one of those you can take a look at for 10, 20, and 40. Really light. He's running it in a sloper. I usually do that as well. And you notice there's a pole that may be a fishing pole or some kind of pole. This I picked up on eBay, and it's my walking stick as I hike up. And then it's
Ceiling.
yeah, it's the ceiling there. Make it a sloper.
Fishing.
It's a 22-foot fishing pole. Very light, very strong, and even though my antenna is 40-some feet, I usually step off the mountain a little bit and run a slope of some kind. And with this setup, 5 watts and the FT817, I've gone coast to coast, contacts in Georgia, so it's really amazing what a little elevation
You get to run up.
and 5 watts does. And in the middle, that's a buddy pole. A lot of people go vertical. And on the left, Sota Beams is a company that makes dipoles and link dipoles. You see the alligator clips there in the upper right. Put it all in the pack, and these cards keep the winding clean. I haven't experimented with that, but a lot of people do. So the radio I use now, for HF anyways, the FD817 in the lower right, and you may be familiar with it. The Electrocraft, what's it, KX3, extremely popular. Ben, you're going to have one of those, right?
I was fantasizing
You
about
can
it.
fantasize.
That's it.
And L&R Precision has a mountain topper which people use for CW that's extremely popular. That's the latest version, and they now have a new version, a new phone, very lightweight, 6 to 160 phone coming out, very light, and I think it's only a year or so old, and people are taking it up mountains. Sota.org.uk is the main website, and if you start to get into the online part of Sota, it can get confusing really fast. Would you agree, Kathy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and why it is because it's been cobbled together by 100 volunteers or more. Every association, everybody adds their little bit. So the important things to know is this is the main site, but all these other little sites that people have built split off from it. Mainly 6 ones. A database, Sota Watch, Reflector, a shop, a Flickr photo area, and a mapping project. We'll talk about 4 of those. On the left, the database is where your points accumulate. And by the way, you can participate without registering and being accumulating points. I know, like the contest, it seems like a lot of us in the county, myself included, just like helping out, not necessarily accumulating
That's
points.
what Radio Dave does. He's not doing it for points.
Yeah. Because it's all a game anyway, and the game's fun to play, even if you don't go to the database and spend, the end of the night on the computer trying to figure out where your points are. But spotting and alerting is fun even if you don't register, because then you can find out where people are when they're out. And I'll get to that in the forum. These are all 3 separate logins, so that confused the heck out of me for 2 months. So if you do decide to log in, you got to do it 3 times. Use the same email, the same ID, and the same password, or it will drive you crazy. So Sota Watch, like I said, is a great place whether you are collecting points or not, because you can see at the top there's spots, and then in the middle, activations. What a spot, this is upcoming activation, but the spots work the same way. They've got the time on the left, and it's UTC time, by the way. The activator, that's their call sign, VK2, QR, and then the summit. Summits have locators with the region, and then the association, the region, and the peak number. So VK2, SM023. And then people let you know what band they'll be on. Sometimes exactly, like the one at the bottom, 7.190. Sometimes approximately just 7 sideband. When it's a spot, though, they usually tell you exactly where they're at. Although some guys often, in these upcoming activations, will put VK2 SMXXX, because they want you to actually listen in and figure out what mountain they're on, so that it's not all a computer-based game. It's actually something you have to listen for. In fact, you can just listen to 146.52 on the weekend, and now in the Sierra, there's usually at least 1 or 2 or 5 people somewhere within 150 miles of you here. If you do decide to get into the database, this is what it looks like. You can submit activator entries. Again, the activators are on the mountain. Chaser entries down below, and you can decide to do this later, by the way. In this case, there's no statute of limitations. So if you decide, hey, Mel contacted me 20 times for mountains last year, I think I'm going to sign up. If you've got that in your logbook, you just transfer it up here, and all of a sudden you'll be in the race. Here's the California activator table. You can see the good guys at the top. He's got 3,000 points. So that's a lot of peaks. He's averaged 4.98 per expedition. He's not doing the expedition, but the chaser gets the same amount of points. So chasers are looking for people climbing tall mountains. And you can see tied for 57th now, KK6TMN with my measly 37 points. Because I'm climbing an average of my hills are averaging 2.18. So I probably got to get to the Sierra if I want to get that way up there. But K6JEL, anybody recognize that? I know Kathy was listening. A guy was up at Kanaka a week ago or
Oh,
two.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
From the
right.
Bay Area,
We
and
got
he was real
Yeah.
excited. He got a tour of the fire tower, and so we're tied. So on this upcoming weekend, I'm going to surpass him. I'll tell you why in a second. There's over 1,000 summits here that have been categorized here in our area. Again, that's going up to from the Bay Area up to the state boundary. And then there's a lot of other associations all over the state. If you notice on the left, the red ones have not been activated. And we'll zero in here. This is our neck of the woods. See Kanaka, the 4 right there next to Kelseyville. Cobb Mountain, the other 4 down below. Then this ridge, I think it's called Bartlett Ridge. It extends Spring Valley and then up and over the lake. All those 4, the most have not been activated. Snow Mountain is off the map, but that is, there's an observatory that's 6 in the middle. There's a number of 6s up above us. There's a peak in Lakeport here in the city limits that has not been activated, and several in Clear Lake as well, each ones. Any questions so far, by the way?
How can you tell if they've been activated?
Okay, you have to click on them, which I'll do now. And so there's Mount Kanaka, W6, Charlie Charlie 035. Last activation at the bottom, K6JEL, so that was July 10th.
2 weeks ago.
It was up there. Last one. So, and even though they say it's not competitive, I consider that my home mountain since I live on its flanks, and I got to erase that JEL from there.
Could you look a little higher on the map, see if Hall Mountain is on there?
Yes, Hall Mountain is, yeah, this is not, I can't slide this up, maybe I'll get the live one up, but yeah, Hall Mountain is one. And I forget that 6, because I may go there soon, because it has a watch tower, but in fact, I forget the names. Just not
High Blade?
High Blade is one, yeah.
However, like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Can
High
you-
Blade is one of
Can you
those.
operate from the watchtower as long as you're using your own power?
Yeah.
Yes, you can drive, and this, yeah, as long as you're not using the car as your power or as your
Or their solar
sitting
panels?
on it. Yeah, as long as you non-mechanically bring everything out of the car and walk it. So yeah, you can drive a lot of these, and because I want to try to do 4, 6, maybe 8 peaks on a weekend coming up. I'm probably just going to be driving as close as I can, popping up, getting contacts, and coming down. So also people write little, like K6JEL wrote a great write-up and a lot of pictures. That's worth looking at. I'll send out links, by the way, to everyone so you can explore through this on your own. But you can see first activated KK6TMN, so that will stay there for all time.
Cool.
Speaking of awards, at 1,000 points, an activator becomes a mountain goat and gets this beautiful statue. And the chaser at 1,000 points becomes a shack sloth. And they also
I'm going
get-
for
That's
that
Kathy's ambition.
one. Everybody's got to have a
We ain't
goal.
walking nowhere. I can sloth with the best.
You get the trophy.
sex sloth.
You get the trophy as well, and there are people now who are, I think there's maybe 100,000 over and over, especially the chasers. North American chaser now with 60,000 points. So
Wow.
some people do this very seriously. The most popular bands are 2040 and 2 meter. Like I said, I was 2 meter for a long time exclusively, and a lot of people do that. Musicians have a lot of fun. 17 and 30 in other countries.